Hello. Today we will be discussing the movie Corpse Bride, an animated horror film directed by Tim Burton. The Corpse Bride was a film produced by Tim Burton in 2005, so this was over a decade ago, nearly 2 decades ago. This short horror film expands on the ideas of how spirits can linger around the living world if they have unresolved fates or experiences that they need to confront in some way or another. Doing so will lead to a sense of self completion that can then liberate them and finally let them rest at peace. A lot of the themes of the movie reference towards Jewish folklore and even reference the invocation of Ukrainian witchcraft in one of the scenes. So it's interesting to see how this movie actually ties into common beliefs in some of these cultures and can actually expand upon the way that they used to live in terms of how they would arrange marriages and preset other methods of, finding ways of profit and gaining a leg up in the world at the time. So the movie averaged a low 80% across the platforms between IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, and Just Watch. The highest one being 84% on Rotten Tomatoes. So the ratings are decent, but not great from the critics. However, the movie really does explore deeply the history of romance, marriage, and just the means in which people would go in order to ensure the benefit of their family back in this time. The movie is very entertaining through and through, and there's a lot of messages that I personally think, even for like an animated PG-13 movie, I think it gets across some very compelling messages and does a great job at it. So I won't run through this entire plot, but I'll touch on some of the important parts. So it starts with Victor and Victoria, two young adults who are sort of being forced into a marriage together. And at first, they haven't met each other and they're both very nervous, but then upon meeting each other, they sort of instantly fall for each other. Victor is practicing his vows with her and can't seem to get them right, so he goes into the woods to practice them alone and accidentally does them perfectly and proposes to a corpse, and then is now engaged to this corpse and is taken to the underworld where he has to try to escape and get back to Victoria in order to marry her by sunrise. That's where they invoke a Ukrainian haunting spell so that he can visit the living world and attempt to set things right. He had tricked his corpse bride into thinking that he just wanted to introduce her to his parents before their wedding, when in reality he wanted to get back to Victoria and his family. So eventually Emily realizes this, the corpse bride, and takes him back to the underworld. And after not having, officially returned and made his presence known, Lord Barkis, another prospect, steps in and attempts to take the hand of Victoria in wedding. And then later on, Victor and Emily, the corpse bride, end up committing to have a wedding. And as it's about to happen through, Emily, the corpse bride, realizes that it's not the right thing to do because she would be taking away the dreams of a young bride when hers were already taken from her. And it would just be this brutal cycle of never-ending peace, or never finding peace, and never-ending pain. So that's a very important moment where Victor and Victoria are finally reunited, and Lord Barkis, the other prospect, still tries to take Victoria as his own. That's where Victor has to fight him, and it's revealed that that's also the same man who killed the corpse bride. And it seems he has a pattern of trying to marry women and then kill them for their fortune. Or, in this case, if they don't have one, to just sort of enact some sort of revenge and rage. Eventually, Lord Barkis is disarmed, and the undead attack and kill him. And then Emily is set free and is finally rested to peace. So the movie is important because it touches on a lot of old topics and current topics that are very reflective of, an important way to just go about life and an important way to interact with people in society. So something to keep in mind is that nobody's perfect, and that's something that's touched on very frequently throughout the movie. Though one of the main things driving these two apart is that one's dead and one's alive, and to the person who's alive, that's a very big deal. So, but he comes to realize, and is why he eventually agreed to marry this undead bride, is because he realized that nobody is perfect, but that she's still a great person, even if she is not actually alive. Another important message is that happiness comes with the freedom of choice. We see that Victoria is miserable when being forced to be wedded with Lord Barkus instead of Victor, who she had come in to fall for. And we only find them to be truly happy, and for Emily to be at peace once everyone has gotten to choose their own fates and when they haven't been assigned for them. Back in these times, marriages were prearranged very often and frequently for the benefit of a family and not for the benefit of those being married. Today, this has changed very much. Another important message is that to each their own. So what that means, it's important to respect one another and to appreciate what everyone stands for and what they value. So Victoria, Victor, and Emily all have different values, and although each one of them comes to grow into a better character near the end, where Victor becomes more accepting, Emily learns to let go, and Victoria learns to be free. And all of these different values correlate and combine to create a really compelling message that all different walks of life and endings of life should really be come to appreciated and recognized for all the value that they sustain. Another important message is that we are not born with freedom, and it can be taken away. There are many scenes where Victoria is locked in her room, confined until her wedding with the new Lord Barkus. We see Victor get dragged into the underworld against his will and, try to trick the dead into bringing him home through a haunting spell. And it's been proven that freedom can be taken away, and when that happens, happiness is taken away, or rather cannot be acquired. So some concluding points about the movie is that the values of this movie hold up for its respective time era, but it's not really representative of most marriages today. It's more reflective of the way that marriage used to be. But the messages that it sustains hold a lot of credibility and value, in my opinion. I thought that the movie succeeded in finding the beauty in death and the beliefs of an afterlife. A lot of these ideas in this movie come from folklore, from from religions that have happened, and it really shows that there can be a beauty in the afterlife. We see a scene where the undead come up to the living world to celebrate a wedding, and they actually reunite with a lot of their loved ones briefly, and it's a beautiful thing to see and to envision that maybe that could happen for everyone someday, is that you can be reunited with the people you love in an afterlife. The movie additionally succeeded at emphasizing the importance of freedom and choice, while also making note of its scarcity for certain people, whether that be in the past or the present, other parts of the world, or it's definitely an issue that needs to be addressed, and this movie does that in a very unique way. It addresses the fact that life is a fleeting value, and that the scarcity of freedom in having that life needs to be protected. And here are the credits, and we're excited. And thank you. I appreciate it.